It's going to be a fiery one today because it is everyone's favorite meme, the good old death cross. Haha, the death cross on Bitcoin. What does it mean? Is it something to be very much afraid of? And well, honestly, I'm just going to spoil the surprise right here. There's a lot of redacted takes going on about this, as Bitcoin will very likely inevitably be getting it tonight. But I wanted to shed some light on it, or at least go over the history of it, so that you can, well, make a more educated decision for yourself, hopefully. Anyways, other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's a nice little Monday morning over here, overcast outside. Nothing new on this dashboard, so you know what? We're going straight into the chart. So first things first, what is the death cross? The death cross is two major moving averages, one being the 50 simple moving average, and two, the white 200 simple moving average. Sometimes people use 55 and a 233, just those fib numbers. Same shit, basically. It's not going to make too much of a difference. And yes, they're more or less interchangeable with exponential moving averages as well. But sometimes I do see people calling like other moving averages a death cross when they cross the upside, or sorry, to the downside. That's bullshit. That's redacted. In this case, the death cross specifically is when the lower period, meaning the red period, or the red 50 right here, does cross the downside of the white 200 simple moving average right here, which is actually not happening at this exact moment. They are about 20 bucks away from each other, but assuming that Bitcoin doesn't pop up, more than, above like 32,000 bucks today, that will inevitably be crossing. And then it's all over. That's all she wrote. It's all ogre, just like good old Shrek. So, that is not necessarily the interplay that I think you'll be finding in a lot of cases. But first things first, I want to address one of the first like major redacted takes that I do see, which is that the price action will pump up into the cross and then the next one is down. Not necessarily. In fact, a lot of the time the pump actually happens before, i.e. setting in the trend, i.e. a lower high, i.e. right at the fucking 200 simple right here, by the way. And this happened actually in late August, as you do see. So that was the test that essentially you would have been looking for. And well, if you're waiting for that, you probably missed it. I'll give you another example of something similar throughout Bitcoin's history. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. We do see this death cross over here in 2018. Where was the pump up into it? It was right in over here. So if you're looking for the actual move itself, yeah, you missed it. It happened a little bit before. A lot of the time they do occur a little bit before. Sometimes they occur a little bit after, but it's not always after. But generally speaking, after the death cross does occur, you're looking for that white moving average, the higher period, the 200 simple, to be the rejective lower highs if it is going to continue long term. So what does that mean? That means that the white 200 simple moving average, which is currently at 27,600 basically, is going to be a major area of interest long term. As long as Bitcoin's below there, yeah, there is risk to the downside, especially as I've been saying throughout this week, basically until Friday, or maybe even until next Monday, because that's when the next real week does start. Risk is to the downside. Several of our models do suggest that there's a high probability of a downside move within this this time frame. It says it doesn't guarantee a downside move. It just says that, hey, if there is going to be a move, it's most likely to the downside, aka if a downside move is going to happen, most likely between now and Friday is what we would expect. So yes. All right. So we've gone through that. What is it? What are we looking at right here? Pump up into it. Yes, we got that. But the next portion is something that I really want to go over throughout history with Bitcoin, because I think it'll kind of, explain itself. And you know what? We're just going to go all the way back to our first major example, which was way back on over here in 2012. And I think that this one does have a lot to say. So first things first, when you do see that there is a golden cross, which is the opposite but equal version of a death cross, just, the lower period above the higher period, the lower period above the higher period, which happens over here. And you do see, a humongous move born upon that, which is what did happen in 2012, as Bitcoin went all the way from, what is this, $6 to, 1,200 bucks. The first death cross after that is almost always a failure, almost always. And in this case, what do you know? You get your death cross right here. Selling at that exact moment or anywhere around it would have been another redacted choice, you might say. It might have been a boob move. Boob, by the way, is boomer talk for redacted as well. I've been watching a lot of He-Man recently, and Skeletor is the master of comebacks, and he is absolutely hilarious. And I'm also very much wondering if you happen to know, because I have my own theories. But was He-Man created for kids, or was it created for like, or were the producers just on a conglomeration of like cocaine and LSD, and they thought it'd be cool to make, and people would watch it. And well, what do you know? We're watching it still to this day. I need to know actually. Anyways, in this case, yeah, the death cross over here, terrible timing as far as that goes. Bitcoin pops back up and gets a fake golden cross, which again is another hallmark feature of these things. Usually the first ones after like long trading moves are not the major ones. And then the next death cross is the big one. That's number 2 right here. Elsa's screaming in the background. But this is the one that really does lead things onwards and downwards as Bitcoin goes all the way from, $500 to its low in 2015 of like 150, 160 or so. That's the big one. And then after that, here is yet another fake golden cross. Again, long trending move. First one bullshit. Second, and then the third death cross, as you can see right here, that is the one where it's time to be on higher low watch. As you can see, price action is essentially consolidating right below these two major moving averages. Once price action essentially pops back up above the white 200 simple, it's lights out. It's lights out, baby. No, it's up and to the right after that, as essentially that did precede the move from about $300 all the way to $20,000 in 2017. 2018 right here, and then same thing all over again. Actually, the first death cross in this particular instance in 2018 did lead price action down quite a fair bit, to be fair. Now, as far as timing the death cross goes, again, terrible. It did essentially call the low of this move right here before a pretty sizable move to the upside. This was a 55% move, by the way. But as I said earlier, it's the white 200 simple that you'd be looking for on those lower highs. So again, if you're looking for that pump up first, no, it happened beforehand, and then this was essentially your next major macro lower high, and then it continued all the way down to the lows over here. But we still have actually the same interplay. In fact, here's your next golden cross. This one did play out quite a fair bit, to be fair, but it wasn't the big one that you're looking for if you're looking for those major macro moves, macro in the sense of like macro bull market. This price action over here is very similar to kind of what I think Bitcoin is doing right now. It's a transitionary market. It's not making new all-time highs, not even anywhere near all-time highs for that matter, but it is more or less the bear market is over, the lows are in, and now we're looking for major sideways, and Bitcoin being the highly volatile asset that it is, comparatively speaking, can draw these major sideways markets quite a fair bit. But within the greater scheme of things, no new highs, nowhere near new highs, but also no new lows as well. Then we get our next death cross right here. Again, another, this one actually does play out rather well in that fashion, I would say, because you actually do pop up right into it. This would be textbook right here. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. And I don't think that we're going to see something similar to that this particular time. And then obviously Bitcoin dumps on to the Rona lows over here. And what do you know? We get our third death cross in that fashion. And that, again, terrible timer, terrible timer, as Bitcoin had already put in the lows right here. It was working on those higher lows, just like we saw back on over here in 2015, 2016, started to get those first couple or 2 or 3 higher lows, and then it was just upwards and onwards from that next major golden cross to the next pretty much all-time highs. But what do you know, in the 2021 saga, we have something incredibly similar here as well. Here's our first death cross. Terrible fucking timer. Terrible fucking timer. Basically has you sell pretty much, very close to the lows. And then price action pops back up to actually new all-time highs, which is rather interesting. And then we get our second death cross right here. Very reminiscent, actually, I would say, of again, 2014, 2015, where price action did pop back up. In this case, made new all-time highs, just barely, but it did. And then we get our next major move to the downside. And this one is, again, textbook. Here was your pop-up before. Here was the pop-up before. It typically does not happen at or after. A lot of the time it happens before. That's your lower high. That's where the lower high comes in, and that's really where it's time to get bearish. And then price action follows through. There's your next rejection at the 200 simple. Okay, textbook. And then Bitcoin actually just goes all the way down from there. And what do you know? We are on our potential third death cross right here. Well, what's the historical rhyme here? 1, 2, 3, boom. 1, 2, 3, boom. And what do we have over here? 1, 2, and potentially 3 over here. So in my opinion, it's time to be on higher low watch Again, this does not mean that Bitcoin can't come down this week. Our model still allows for that. It says that if we're going to see downside, it's most likely to happen before the end of this week. But if we don't see downside by the end of this week, I will start to look at this as more and more likely to at least try a short-term upside move from here. And at that point, if that short-term upside move, once it comes back down, does set in a higher low, that would be a damn good, damn good example of, hey, that's probably it. That's probably it, which does kind of play hand in hand with some of the other things that we've been looking at. But still, this week is absolutely important despite the overwhelmingly boringness of this sideways asset. I know that it's mind-numbingly, terrible to just continue to look at this thing go sideways for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. But I do believe that this week is going to be rather important, especially with the quad witching coming up on Friday. You got FTX liquidations, which I think are getting front run right now, but I'm sure that there's going to be, some sort of an interplay with that as well. And yeah, I think maybe that's a good place for me to be subsiding on this video. Maybe we can just go quickly check out the HPDR indicator. What do you know? It's the same shit. It's the same fucking shit. 4-hour time frame still showing 25,250 to the downside as the area of interest. To the upside, still 26,600, the area of interest. So anything between there is just irrelevant. Bitcoin operating a little bit below the average of the of this current range, which I don't know if that matters all that much as of right now. Of course, if Bitcoin does dump out, we're probably looking at a move to 23,500. It is going to be significant. But for right now, we did just get another weekly, and the weekly stochastic oscillator continues to the downside, actually. In fact, this is probably... this is certainly on the more bearish side for me. The pivot here did not move down all that much. 29,300 barely moved the needle. So it is pressure onto the downside this week. If there's going to be downside, it happens this week, but it really depends on how we close this week, how we see this week, where this week actually finds itself on Friday. 5-day time frame, we've already gone over this, 27,400. That one's going to be having another closure tomorrow. So I'm going to be very interested to see where this one comes. If it comes a lot closer to current price action, okay, that's going to strengthen the case that Bitcoin does hold here around this $26,000 region. 2-day time frame is also very deep within the bearish control zone. The bearish critical zone will turn up above 26. Again, there's going to be some divergences building up here at some point, but it's not releasing just yet. Daily time frame will turn up above 25,725, which price action is $100 above right now, which $100 right now feels like $5,000 in 2021. 12-hour time frame is going to be doing what? It's going to be flip-flopping around. Let's actually see what CME is looking like. Yeah, it is up as well here above 25.5. 6-hour time frame going to be showing downside below 26.4. 4-hour time frame going to be showing downside below 26.1, and hourly is going to be showing upside above 25.8. So what does that mean? Very short term. Probably more sideways. Kind of crazy right there. I also do think that it's worth noting that Dixie over here, a little bit of a short-term reversal, and I do expect that it comes down a little bit more. But could this reversal turn into like a weekly reversal? Possibly yes, but it'd have to come down significantly more, like 103. But for right now, we're starting to see daily stochastic turn down. I think that we also see maybe if we go over here, we do have some daily bearish divergence working on this one. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's in the cards here. Will be confirmed later today with any sort of a closure here or lower, and should get a short-term correction here. The question is, does a short-term correction turn into a long-term reversal? Again, as long as it's above about $103, I don't think so. So that would also be a little bit more on the bearish side. So I think we'll leave things off right there. Yeah. Tomorrow night or coming into Wednesday is going to be the most interesting day, I suspect, just to see the next 5-day update. And then, of course, we got Friday. So going to be an eventful week, I suspect. But for today and tomorrow, probably it's going to be boring if I had to guess. So with that said, I want to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.